Okay, say your name.
Rich.
I'm Dave.
I'm Holly.
I'm Lynn.
I'm Mary.
I'm Casey.
Woo! Capital punishment, or otherwise known as the death penalty, has always been a hotly debated topic in this country. It stirs up a lot of emotions because you're talking about like heinous crimes and someone's life. Do some of the people on death row deserve to die? Yes, of course. These are premeditated, just evil people that don't care about society. They should not be in society. But what about like that one innocent person? That one innocent person that's sitting there, is his life or her life worth keeping all the other ones alive so that they don't die? The number one advantage of capital punishment is death row inmates have a 0% re-victimization rate. Like, they can't hurt anybody from the grave. So you are achieving your goal of stopping them from ever doing anything ever again. Some call it the best justice for the victims. It says it gives them closure and it honors them. And the saying, an eye for an eye. Bruce Fain, who is a constitutional attorney, says the death penalty honors human dignity by treating the defendant as a free moral actor, able to control his own destiny for good or for ill. Hence arguing that the death penalty is in fact very moral, and that we're letting these people choose to live or die. If you don't want to die, then don't commit these heinous crimes. The number one disadvantage of the death penalty is the innocent. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, 156 people have been found innocent of their crimes that have landed them on death row. 156. DNA evidence has played a factor in only 20 of these cases, and that number is sure to rise. A man was let out last year who was convicted in the 70s, and they ended up tracking down the DNA through an off-site source. The police station and the county had lost the evidence, but during the original trial to go test like blood type, which is what they could do then, it was sent to an outside lab. That outside lab still had that DNA evidence that the police had lost and still had 2 vials with full markers on it. They then tested the DNA, and this proved this man to be innocent, who had been sitting on death row for 20-something years. He was finally, and then even after the DNA came back, he had to wait another, I believe it was like 8 years before he was actually released from prison in order to go through the courts and get everything done. So he's sitting there this whole time knowing that he doesn't deserve to be there and that they actually, like, they're going to kill him for it. Carrying out a death sentence is also far more costly than it is for life in prison. Just as the example of that man that got set free and all those years of having to go through all those court processes, right? A lot of times they end up with like public attorneys because they're in prison. You can't afford to pay a lawyer. Even some of the lowest price lawyers are like $200 an hour. You're in prison. So the state ends up taking that cost because they do have a right to have all of these hearings. So that causes an expense. They also require a separate housing facility and separate conditions made, since they are basically like never let out of their cells and they're not kept with the general population. So that brings on more building costs, more security costs. Just everything keeps rising by having these select few people on death row as opposed to just life in prison with all of the other inmates. The other one disadvantage of the death penalty is it doesn't act as a deterrent. Perhaps one could say that in an interrogation with a suspect, it could be useful to threaten, to try to get that suspect to cooperate with the investigation and help and give them some more information so that they don't get put to death. But it does not stop anyone from committing their crimes. No one stops and thinks, oh, they're going to kill me if I do this. It doesn't work. In fact, in countries that don't have the death penalty, they have a lot lower crime rate than the United States does. So when it comes down to it, if it doesn't prevent criminals from committing their crimes, if it costs us more money, if 156 people were let go that weren't killed yet, by the way, So we don't know of any people that were killed if they were innocent, because no one is there trying to prove that they're not. No one's going to test DNA of someone that they've already executed. Is it really worth it? Like, what are we doing? It does not seem to make any sense financially, morally, or just, I guess, with any regard to human life whatsoever. So everyone says an eye for an eye, but an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Thank you.